everybody? Welcome back to Spitting Fire. This is episode 3 with the boss man, Pastor Jahnig, where we get to talk about life, leadership, and lingering topics, i.e. the stuff that no one wants to talk about. How are you doing, Pastor Dill? You well?
So good. These are fast becoming the highlight of my week. Like, seriously.
I'm loving them.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Awesome.
This is amazing, and it's good to be here.
Spitting Fire, hot topics, the ones that no one's talking about. Love it.
That's exactly why it's Spitting Fire. That's why I got a little fire emoji. Because we are going to tackle a couple of topics coming up that maybe not too many people want to talk about.
Today is one of personal favorites.
Today is a personal favorite, and there's a whole bunch going on in here. It's all about vision. It's all about breaking through personal barriers, and it's all about living consciously.
That's right. Checking your notes there.
Just checking my notes, making sure that we've got them all
your
there.
notes there.
Just making sure they're all there. You know, you can't jump into a podcast like this without having a few notes.
Thanks for sending me the questions. I didn't know what was going on.
No, this put you on the spot.
Hot topics.
Hot topics.
Hot seat.
You shouldn't have to look at.
Can we just take a moment though before we jump into the conversation and just appreciate what Dubs is doing with the hair? I mean, let's just give him a shout out. Could everyone out there just seriously put some hands together if you're listening?
Actually growing it. Look.
There we go. It's growing. It's growing
straight into the back of my t-shirt.
Anyway, cut that.
Welcome to episode 3, where we highlight your weaknesses and celebrate your failures. Great to be back on the podcast.
And ignore your strengths.
We're just joking, but man, it's awesome to be back together. Please don't cut that. That was just a fun moment. It's really cool. I know these do get serious, but sometimes it's just great to have a bit of fun.
That's true.
Awesome. It jumped straight in. Personal vision. Personal vision. And last week we got to discuss corporate vision.
Yeah.
His eyes go skew and his mouth goes the same way. You look at, and I know it's game over, bro. You know, like, yeah, it's gordijnen. Curtains, gordijnen.
Can we get someone less funny to look at?
Keith, you're up, bro. Get in here.
Can we get someone a little bit less awkward to look at? For this?
Funny or awkward?
For all of the above. Option E. Remember, multiple choice, bro.
B. The answer is B. Flip. So last week we chatted a little bit around corporate vision.
I did nothing there, bro.
Don't do that.
No, you did. I'm looking at the camera, so you can talk. Just talk, bro.
Put your tongue in your mouth, bro, because that's the problem. See, he's getting cross now, eh? No, I see. He's getting cross.
Let me tell you, I'm getting cross.
I'm furious, yeah. So last week we chatted a little bit around corporate vision.
Oh, no, bro. That was not me, bro. I take zero responsibility for that.
Okay. That's why you dry your eyes. So last week we chatted a little bit around corporate vision. This week we are going to look at some personal vision. And I wanted to ask you straight up off the bat, is there any difference between finding vision for your life as there is to finding vision for your business or your church or your organization, whatever that might look like?
I love the question and I love the subject of today. I just want to say, shout out to anyone who's listening to this. Vision is such a big deal. It's such a big deal to not to know all the details, but to have some kind of direction. Andy Stanley actually had this cool statement. He said, your direction, not your intention, determines your destination.
That's so good.
Which is to say, vision is going to have a role in where you end up, right?
Yep.
So yes, there is a little bit of a difference, I think. I don't know all the answers, but I think between corporate vision, which is an identity that a group of people walk toward, and personal vision, which is what I believe my life may look like, there is a difference to those two worlds. But having said that, I do think that if you can't align your personal vision with some exciting corporate vision, you should really be thinking about aligning it somewhere else, because I think although they're different, you need to do something that fuels what you believe personally. So
absolutely. It's actually being part of a vision that's bigger than yourself.
Totally, yeah. Tess often actually speaks about this. She says whenever someone is discontent or confused or uncertain, she'll encourage them listen, just consider what it is to be a part of a vision that is somebody else but compelling, something that calls you forward, So yeah, it can get you off your seat.
That's awesome. Back to that call to more, I suppose. We touched on it last week. There's always this call to more. And sometimes greater vision calls our personal vision to more.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So how do you build a personal vision for your life?
So we have this kind of process we go through every few years as a family. We've done it as a team.
Yep.
You'll know the story. But we basically just take like 5 key areas of your life. It's family, career, finances, faith or ministry, and then personal. And we take those 5 areas and we just write down what we'd like them to look like 5 years from now.
Awesome.
It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be like a strategy. It's not a goal-setting exercise. It's just a snapshot of my vision. In my family, what it would like to look like.
Yeah.
Here's the truth of the story. I did this exercise just as we got married.
Yep.
And so now it's like 12 years back or 13 years this year. But as I got married, I did this exercise and I had no kids at the time. And on that thing in my family, I was like, I desired children, 2 of them. Literally in my vision thing. I desired to plant a church. I desired to get finances for certain things. And 5 years later, surprisingly, all of that stuff was actually in play. And some of it, yes, I've been strategic toward, but it's almost like vision aligns you and you almost like subconsciously get in. I know we're going to talk more about this, but it sets us up. So 5 key areas of your life, and then just write down what's your desired future for each of those areas and do the exercise every few years.
That's brilliant. I love the fact you say that it doesn't have to be perfect, because I think a lot of what holds people back is simply the idea that the next 5 years or the vision for that next 5 years has to be a perfect scenario.
Yeah. And again, it's not a strategy.
Brilliant.
Because that's the big thing. Everyone goes, okay, I'm going to write it down. And then they write the first thing down. Like, let's say family, 3 kids. How do you strategize that other than look after your intimacy? But there's no guarantees, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm just saying, just get a snapshot. Just give yourself a permission to dream, like we spoke about last week, in those 5 key areas.
That's brilliant. Can you mention those 5 key areas just one more time for those?
So it's personal, it's work, it's finances, it's family, and it's faith or some form of ministry. How do you give back to people with the God Spirit that's in you?
Awesome. We've recently chatted around this idea about God-breathed living.
Yeah.
You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I guess that's connected, right? So God-breathed living for me is, in each of us, there is this breath that is unique to who I am. Each of us got breath from Him, right? And that thing like shapes in me the desires of my heart, the dreams that I see for my future. So yeah, I guess somewhere linked to this whole vision thing, or how do you build a personal vision? Take the 5 key areas. But when you're doing that, ask the Holy Spirit, or ask God to show you what that might look like. Don't just write stuff like, whatever you feel. Like take a moment and say, God, what do you see for my future? Holy Spirit, what do you see for my future? And I think that is the God-breathed nature to this thing. And again, you'll be surprised when you go, I just need to take a breath and figure out what this means from a different perspective, heaven's perspective. You'll be surprised what comes out.
That's awesome. Also love the fact that you and Tess do that together.
Yeah.
I think sometimes that within a marriage or within a relationship, you both build personal vision for your own lives. And sometimes they misaligned.
Yeah.
So it's important exercise to sit down and do that exercise over the next 5 years, even though it may be personal to you, to sit with your spouse and just make sure those are lined up.
Totally. And I think this is such a big idea. So anyone who's watching this, shout out. What Dubs is saying is so key, because you're going to take those 5 areas and you're going to write your personal vision. No one's going to help you. You're going to ask God to give you ideas. You're going to write them down. Then you're going to sit with your spouse. And you're going to look at the 2 and go, where's their misalignment? And
Brilliant.
Is it okay? Like some things aren't problems to be solved. Some things are just tensions to be managed.
So good.
Maybe something in her life looks a bit different to mine. And then again, in your organization, same thing. Take your personal vision, align it to the organizations. Where's their misalignment? Is it a personal thing? Is it a corporate thing? How do we move forward,
So good. I actually heard a statement just a few days ago that said, if it's beyond 5 years, it shouldn't take up more than 5 minutes of your time. Does that statement resonate with you?
Does it resonate with you?
I think it does.
Yeah.
I think you can't control tomorrow, and you can't control 20 years from now, but there's more chance of building towards a 5-year future than a 50-year future.
Totally. I agree with you, man. And I think like anything, life, there's so much mist. There's so much fog.
Yep.
There's, fog, the acronym for it is fear, obligation, and guilt.
Brilliant.
There is so much fear, obligation, and guilt in our lives that it's like a fog, right?
Yep.
You can't see very far in the fog. And I think when it comes to vision, it's the same idea. There's so much around what I think I should be when I'm that age, or what I should have been, or what they thought I should have been. They actually don't worry about that. Just come back to the place you can kind of see, this is who I think I am for the next few years. This is what I'd like to see for the next few. So yeah, I agree with that. Don't give more than 5 minutes to 5 years plus.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Actually chatting to Pastor Mark Slev the other day.
Brilliant.
And he was chatting to couple of guys in the office and just said, hey, if you're building a future, don't think too long beyond 5 years. I think 5 years. I'm just a simple guy. I like bite-sized chunks. And I feel like 5 years for me is a bite-sized chunk, something I can manage and really simple.
And there's another part to that as well. So it's not just ignoring the fact that you can't see the future, but it's also acknowledging the fact that dreams changed.
Yeah.
Your vision lifts. You get in the room with bigger people, you experience more to life, something happens in your life, maybe a trauma, a tragedy, and it changes the way you see things.
So quickly, yeah.
So for sure, every 5 years you refresh your vision rather than going, no, I'm going to do this for the next 50 years. It's foggy.
It is foggy. I think it's also brilliant, though, that life happens in seasons, and there's certain transitions in life that you go through. I think sometimes for us as men, we transition way easier than what our wives would do. I think they're just so much more in tune with the rhythms of life.
Yeah, sure.
So 5 years, I have no children. I want 2 children. By the time that 5-year plan has come up, then you got 2 kids. But those kids are 2 and 4. Then 5 years from now, they're starting school.
Sure.
5 years later, they're starting high school. So I think those transitions are actually really important to actually build that vision for that 5-year plan, because it's way more clear.
Yeah, I love this. In fact, we're kind of taking a little detour, but I love this because the Proverbs scripture 29:18 says, for lack of vision, my people cast off restraint or run in different directions, right?
Yep.
So if I write down 5-year vision, and let's say I go about my 5 years and 90% of it's achieved, let's say that. Let's say it's in my life. You can see what I dreamed of, right? So it's tick, 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 tick. Now I have almost, in a sense, a lack of vision.
Yep.
Because it's all kind of accomplished. So now I need fresh vision. Otherwise, I'm just like what Proverbs says. I'm going to run in a whole bunch of different directions. So I think again and again, to refresh vision every so often is an important exercise. 1, because we can't plan the future.
Yeah.
But 2, because it's always changing and we need it to change.
So
we stay compelled about something, like committed to something.
That's brilliant. I think sometimes, and putting my neck out a little bit, but this is spitting fire. Anything can happen. But
absolutely.
Sometimes vision can become stale.
Yeah, I agree.
And I know last week we touched on just being curious and remaining curious as a leader. I think it's important to stay curious in our lives. Keep asking questions. Keep desiring more.
Yeah.
Keep moving forward. Keep throwing ourselves at bigger causes.
Yeah.
Because those call us to more and actually help build a personal vision for our lives.
Totally, man. And I think, like for our team, we encourage this for every individual.
Yeah.
Like, dream your dreams. Like, get fresh vision for your own life. Yes, there's an organizational alignment, but it's so important that people in their own spirit are dreaming and envisioning their lives, because it actually keeps us healthy on the inside. It feels like we have something to run after.
That's so good. Have you boys done personal visions for your life, Heath and Justin?
Big
you
notes.
guys written down 5-year plans for your lives,
Wives, come on.
children?
Now we're talking.
Come on,
Spitting
boys.
fire.
Write those down. Only 5 years. It's easy.
Beautiful. Next session, we'll hear back from you guys.
Yeah.
That'll be awesome.
Nervous chuckles behind the camera there. Wives.
Kids.
Heath got all giddy. Anyway. Spitting fire, Heath. Anything can happen. You look so good behind the camera, by the way.
That's the truth.
So
ladies out there, by the way, behind the cameras, we have 2 very special young men.
Yes, we
and
do.
We can even put their numbers in the comments tab below. Just for anyone who's watching this, it'll be fantastic.
That's brilliant. Anyway, so vision is hugely important. Personal, corporate, we've established that. A lot of what helps or stops us from achieving those goals or reaching those visions is this idea of personal breakthrough. And it's become quite a hot topic. I know there's a whole lot of EQ exercises out there that help us identify who we are. And every single one of us has blind spots. So they need to be identified. Sometimes we don't need them. Sometimes we just need a good mate to go, hey,
yeah, sure,
work on that area. Mate, why don't you try this? Something that should be happening. But personal growth is a choice. Where do we start?
Oh, no, you can't ask me that question. Spitting fire, personal growth.
Come on, personal growth. We're breaking through some growth barriers.
Well, I have one little suggestion. I don't know where this will fit in, but Will McRaven wrote a book titled Make Your Bed.
Yes.
Right? And literally he starts the book by saying the easiest way to make a success of your life is to start by making your bed every morning.
Awesome.
So again, to go back to your question, how do we, choose personal growth? Start by doing small things. Actually, there's a name for this. It's really powerful. You guys watching should think about writing this down somewhere. They call it Keystone Habits.
Keystone.
So what a keystone habit is, there we go, Dubsy's writing it down. Such a good student. Keystone habits is such a cool thought, because what it's saying is there are certain things we can do. There are certain things we can do in our days, in our lives, that are actually quite small habits
Yep.
that have a keystone effect, that they trigger other habits. So rather than saying, I'm going to do these 40 things every single day, what a keystone habit is saying, I'm going to make my bed.
Yep.
I'm going to pour my wife a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And there's a psychology that takes place on the inside that actually causes us to want to do more of the things that make life count.
Brilliant. Small
So,
victories.
Keystone habits. Yeah. Rather than trying to do 20 habits, choose 2 or 3. They call them keystones.
Yeah.
And just do those faithfully. And what it'll do is like planting a seed. It produces more good habits in your life. And
That's
I've
so
seen
good.
this, making my bed is something I've tried.
Yep.
I was in boarding school. I hated making my bed, hated it.
Yep.
You were forced to tuck the corners in. It was a disaster,
Make it look good.
Exactly. But I've just taken up Will McRaven's advice. I make the bed every single morning. I'm like a little bit pedantic about it. But it definitely triggers something in my mind for a productive day, to the point where I can tell you the days when I haven't made my bed. I know it sounds crazy, but it's just the truth.
That's
so
so good.
start personal growth with keystone habits.
That's amazing. Pastors Mark and Katzlev have been doing some coaching with our staff team and helping us just see what we value in our personal lives as families. And one of the things that they've been encouraging or challenging us around is actually building healthy habits around your values.
Yeah, so good.
Because there's certain things that we value in our personal lives and in our families, but we never do anything to achieve the value.
Yeah.
So one of those things, similar to a keystone habit, they're saying, hey, what habits are you building around family time? What habits are you building around fun? What habits are you building around building a successful future, whatever that might look like?
Yeah, that's good. I loved how Mark said recently in an interview we did as a team, he said, you're more likely to act yourself into a healthy way of thinking than to think yourself into a healthy way of acting.
Brilliant.
So that was really helpful.
Yeah, they are helpful as a couple, and our staff team.
Wise people.
Wise.
Shout out to Mark and Katzlev.
Oh, you guys are amazing. Absolutely love you guys. I need help. Some of the most
Me
powerful.
too, Dubsy. So much.
Yeah.
So much.
I'm in for some help.
Hands up. I nearly gave him a high five. Hands up.
I'll take it.
Cheers. Hands up if you need help. Just shout up.
Hands up. Comments in the box below. Whatever it may need. If you need help, because I tell you why, these are some of the most powerful words you'll ever say.
So true.
When we are weak,
He is strong.
He is strong. Come on.
Yeah. And it actually says, in my weakness, His grace is made sufficient in me.
So good.
That's such a cool thing, because yes, it's when we are weak, He is strong, but it's also when we are weak, He proves His strength through us.
So good. I love the fact that you always say to us, we always at our best when we're walking with a slight limp.
That's true. Yeah. People don't like that though, because they're like, I want to have my life ordered,
Yeah.
Tick this box, tick that thing, needing that thing. I'm like, no, you're actually better when you're a little bit broken, just a little bit, just a reminder that actually humility is permission to trust Him.
That's brilliant. What are some of the tools that we've had access to as a team that have been helpful to understanding where we are in terms of breaking through growth barriers?
Well, if you haven't done a Strengthfinder, you got to do that. Strengthfinder.com, super simple, a couple of questions, and it's going to give you your top 5 strengths. And that's really helpful. I would say work with your top 2 or 3. Even 5 is too many in this day and age. Just top 2 or 3 is fantastic. Strengthfinder is a great tool. There's a lot of resource on the Gallup site around strengths. Enneagram.
Yeah, but before you head on there, I love that Strengthfinder, because what they encourage is to focus on your strengths, on your weaknesses.
Yeah, true.
And so often in life we think, hey, no, we're so good at doing X, Y, and Z. Let's jump into something we're not good at and improve in that so that we can get better.
Yeah, and so this is so important because, just now we spoke about in our weakness, He is strong.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean in doing what is terrible, He makes it better.
No.
It's not like I'm really bad at writing and so Jesus helps me write. Look, He can.
Yeah.
But what it's saying is in my weakness, in my honest admission that I don't have what it takes, He gets on the strengths in my life to make them more. He gets on what is true to me and makes it more.
Yeah.
And I think that's a little bit different. It's not like I can't do this, God help me. He can. It's that God, I know I'm called to do this, but I'm just feeling a little bit undone by it. And I feel like God breathes fresh life into what we're already born for. Back to the God breathe thing.
So good. What are your top 5 strengths?
Futuristic, activator, positivity, woo, strategic.
That is awesome. So good. You mentioned Enneagram?
Yeah, so Enneagram is a little bit more around personality. Strength's a little bit more around talent or gifting. Enneagram more around personality. I won't do it all the justice it needs now because there are people way more skilled at this than me. But in essence, what it's doing is helping you understand your true self. What does it look like for you to function in your true self in any role that you might play? So the Enneagram, for example, there are 9 different Enneagram types. I'm a 7. which is like a perpetual dreamer or entertainment, or like a good friend Kelly Ross Kent always says, I live and die in Disneyland.
Come on.
Which is true of me. So the course, the Enneagram test thing is, I think, pretty accurate, and it helps you see your up and your downside. So there's a positive way to how I live and die in Disneyland.
Yep.
Which is life is fun and adventurous, and like what we're doing now, it's just fueling everything inside of me. And then there's this negative side, which I don't pay attention to the realities of life sometimes, or I pretend that they're not there.
Yep.
And this is also true. So what Enneagram helps you do is understand where am I at my best and where am I actually a little bit kind of, it's probably not my safest place to play, and I could do with some help there.
Awesome.
And so, it's really powerful. So Strengthfinder, Enneagram, both of those amazing. More recently, we did archetypes. That was fun.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, and archetypes is a whole new thing. You can check that out online.
Yeah.
So, a couple of thoughts there.
And then also we did a temperament test recently. We actually did one of our small group settings. And they're actually talking to your temperament, who you are as a character.
And so simple, right?
Yeah, really simple.
What was it? Like red, yellow, green, blue.
Yep.
Like super simple.
Simple.
And again, all these things, what I found, what I love about these, because some guys look at them and go, nah, we don't need to do this stuff. Like, we know who we are. The truth is you don't really. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And we all have blind spots.
Good, yeah.
And I think when you do these strengths finders, what's interesting is what comes out at number 34 on my list. Because I look at that and I go, but I thought I was more of that. Yeah, but that's because I got blind spots. There's certain things I'm naturally always, and there's other things that I'm not natural. And it's good to do strengths finders to remind yourself what you're born for and kind of what you're not,
Yeah.
Otherwise, you think you can do everything, and that's just not the truth.
No, it's not at all.
No, exactly.
We also do believe that God can do anything, anywhere, anytime.
That's the truth.
So don't let these define you. Let them help you.
So Alan Kelsey, that really did a lot of work with strengths, he said it like this. He said, see them as like banks of a river. Like see them as river banks. They don't change the current. They don't change the flow of the water. They don't change. That water will one day choose its own direction if it has to.
Yep.
We've seen this so many times where the bridge ends up like off the river,
Yeah.
because the river's moved. But allow them just to be banks. Allow them just to navigate you in the season that you're in. So I like what you're saying, because God could actually do anything with us anytime. You're right.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes we hold fast onto these things, and actually sometimes they replace that very thing we were chatting about last week, having your ear to the ground.
So good, yeah.
Listening to what God's saying. But put these on the shelf, use them, like you say, use them as banks of a river. If you missed those, these are them. Strengthfinder, that's on the Gallup's website, or strengthfinder.com. Enneagram, and the temperament assessment, as well as archetypes. So
yeah, and look how they overlap.
Yeah.
Like as you're doing it, check out the overlap, because you'll start to see consistencies, and normally you start to see a thread. If they're not overlapping, chances are you're still figuring out a lot of stuff in you. But once they start to like line up, it's quite exciting.
It is exciting, and we never arrive. We're always working and always looking, but I can guarantee that these moments are going to help you break through some personal barriers in your own journey and help you reach some personal vision for your life. Come on, that's awesome. Last year, as a team, we actually worked through some of Pete Scasero's book, Emotionally Healthy Leader. And I know he does one, Emotionally Healthy Teams and Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. Some real insight into what it looks like to be emotionally healthy. And it had a deep impact on my own life, to be honest, with one or two of those chapters. You recommend that for teams, or?
Yeah, I do. And I mean, I've read the book as well, and it certainly spoke to me. He wrote it off the back end of burnout, so he's got a lot of experience in what we don't want to experience. Yeah, so really helpful. But when you say the chapters that spoke to you and the book kind of spoke to you, what do you mean by that? What do you think it was?
There's a particular chapter around leading out of a place of marriage or leading out of a place of singleness.
I remember that. Yeah.
And that chapter for me was just phenomenal. I think learning to he actually suggests that it's the starting point to great leadership. It's actually leading out of a place of marriage, or identifying your singleness and leading out of that space.
Wow, that's great.
So, and I literally just focused on that for a year. I said, all right, how do I build healthy habits in my marriage? That's great. How do I use those to build into who am I leading and who am I helping move forward? Yeah, that's great. I like it how he settles you in the things that matter most, because sometimes you can get so frantic and trying to be that everywhere. Yeah. And he settles it and like, just be that in your marriage. Like, use this as a tool for your life, to help you. We had a saying a few years ago, and we still visit it from time to time. Just one thing, 1 week. Yeah. And we used it for a church building strategy, if you want to call it that. We'd be like, hey, what are we going to do this week to make it better? Just one thing. Let's put blinds on. Let's make sure the music's working. It worked great. And it worked great. It was amazing stuff. I think sometimes when it comes to these types of conversations or tools or strengths or whatever they look like, it's like we're trying to grab at everything at once. I'm going, no, just build on one thing for a season. Yeah. But even like strengths, I find these exercises, you'll go and do strengths, and it's super exciting. You get them back, you're like, yeah, that's who I am. Next exercise.
No, go and read the book.
Yeah.
Learn about them. Learn about others,
Marinate in your strengths.
Exactly. Come on.
Learn about them, grow in them, see how they can help you move forward.
Yeah, that's so good.
Learn about who you are. And the amazing thing about Strengthfinder is actually how I know Alan and Steph Kelsey do that strengths-based marriage.
Yeah, brilliant.
Which
Great
is
book.
so good because it helps you understand your spouse, how they're wired, what goes on, the things that drive you crazy, the things that make sense. And sometimes we just don't know what those things are. And sometimes they become barriers in marriage.
Yeah, so true.
And it might be as simple as doing a Strengthsfinder, reading a book, and letting that help you build
Absolutely.
an incredible marriage with your spouse.
Absolutely. So one of Tessa's strengths is achiever. Right.
Yes.
I'm just going to tell a personal story.
Yeah.
One of her strengths is achiever, which means like if she doesn't go through a day feeling like she's checked off some items on a list,
Yep.
she feels like she's let herself down.
Yeah.
Like forget about others. Like she feels like she's let herself down. My strength is futuristic.
Yeah.
Like if I don't daydream for like an hour in a day, I feel like I'm failing myself. So here she is going, could you stop daydreaming and do something? And here I'm going like, could you just throw away the list and dream? So you realize like
So
those
good.
two things have got to work together. There's a place for both. So
Also, it's helped us in the workplace as well. I mean, my admin's not my strong point, and it takes
Yeah.
me about 4.5 hours to do a simple spreadsheet. And then for a season, I just stopped doing spreadsheets. I'd help Sammy, the incredible Sammy, would help me put spreadsheets together. I'd tell her what it needs to look like. She'd put it together for me. And one of her top strengths is admin. So it was done
Absolutely.
within a couple of minutes and on my desk. And I was like, wow, it took me a whole day. And Sammy just smashed it out in a couple of minutes. Sammy, you're legend.
there we go. Shout out Sammy.
You are awesome. What are your thoughts around trained professionals, Pastor Dill?
Well, are you talking like psychologists or doctors or what are you thinking?
Coaches, life coaches,
Oh,
psychologists.
coaching's become a big thing.
Coaching's become massive.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a friend of ours, Craig Mundell, has done some stuff with our team, with
Yep.
me personally as a coach. It's been a fantastic story. So I've really enjoyed that. Obviously, we got friends doing coaching, people we know actually moving into corporate spaces as coaches, employed as coaches in corporate spaces. So clearly the coaching thing's on the map. In
Yep.
fact, Google did a survey a few years back. I forget what it's called now. But the top ranked expectation of a Google employee by way of what Google could give them was a coach.
No ways.
Like not medical benefit, not extra holidays, not higher pay. It was give us a coach, give us someone to bring the best out of us. So clearly that's like a big deal at the moment. But alongside that, there's people like psychologists that have always been dubbed like the last resort.
Yeah.
This year I went to see a psychologist, an incredible lady in Umhlanga, Dominic Manas. And I just think she helped clear up so much fog that was in my mind.
So good.
And so, yeah, I'm all about it. Like there's different, I think, skill sets for different needs.
Yeah.
But definitely for me, I mean, she was incredible. I went to 2 sessions. I probably will once a year out of pure routine.
Yeah.
Go back, check in and make sure that I'm seeing things clearly. My mind's healthy. So, yeah, I'm all about you choosing what you need in that season. It's really not a shame thing at all.
No, that's cool. I know the word psychologist for me used to be like psychologist. Run
Yeah.
away. There's something wrong with me. I'm sick. I'm unwell. I need emotional help. And I think it's been incredible in this last season, just chatting to a few guys, understanding what they do.
Yeah.
And you don't need to go see someone if you're sick emotionally or psychologically. But these people are all there to help you move forward, help
Totally.
you break through things that may have happened in terms of trauma.
Yeah.
I think by nature of what we do, we carry a lot of emotional weight of a lot of people. And if you don't have someone to help you break through those barriers, that you're gonna be carrying that.
So I'll tell you a quick story because I mean I felt like this. I drove into her offices in Umhlanga, and I had this feeling of like nervousness, like why am I here? Is there something wrong with me? And yet I knew I needed to be there. Like I just knew I needed to be there. So anyway, we go and one of the questions she asks, just in getting to know a bit of my background, because a lot of it's around background and childhood, was, tell me some memories between the ages of 1 and 7. You know, and I just went blank. And she kind of smiled and said, anything that stands out? I said, no, nothing. She said, nothing traumatic, nothing exciting, nothing that you remember. I'm like, nothing. So she just smiles and she just says, look, I want you to think about that because a lot of what plays out in the rest of your life happens between the ages of 1 and 7.
That's amazing.
And here I was sitting there with not a single memory I could recall, which is to say there's a whole lot of stuff either that I've blocked out or has been blocked out by whatever thing. And I would say I'm a fairly healthy, excited, good-going guy.
Absolutely.
And yet there's untapped potential based on what took place in those years. I get home, Tess phones my mom, I tell her the story because I'm like all about just sharing the experience.
Yep.
I tell her a story, Tess gets hold of my mom. My mom drops a box of photos between the ages of 1 and 7 of me as a kid. And I start going through the photos and the memories start coming. I would never have done that if I hadn't have gone to a psychologist, if she hadn't have asked a question that was just simple, true to who I am.
Yep.
And if my mom hadn't allowed that journey to go further by giving me pictures. And what it's done is it's reminded me what I loved then and what I should still love now. Because remember, your 2-year-old self is your most curious, most adaptable self. There's some part of that that has to be protected in our adult years.
That is so good. I love your desire to grow and get better and help achieve the vision that God's put on your life, because you know what? That helps our organization and everyone out there watching.
Thanks, man.
So thanks for a vulnerable moment, but very grateful for those moments, because I believe it's going to help people out there. Don't be scared of saying, I need help, and going to go see someone who can help you move forward, whether it be a coach, whether it be a psychologist, whether it just be a good friend to help point out some blind spots. Start the conversation. I need help, maybe some of the most powerful words that you'll ever say.
Great.
Awesome. Living consciously. I think so often we go through life unconsciously. We blur through seasons. We blur through life. A conscious living space is something that you become quite passionate about. We've had a couple of little conversations around it, just catching up every now and then. What intrigues you about it?
So at the beginning of the year, I decided to study brain science, like go figure. Who does that? And I just did a 6-week Udemy course. It's nothing profound. It was just a simple unpacking of the brain and the limbic system, which is 4 big quadrants. And the key idea there is that a lot of our life is automated. It functions from automated quadrants in our brain, one of them being the reptilian brain. One of them, I think, is the paleolimbic, I think is the second one. But these are automated responses to life, both socially and by way of fear that is around us, right?
Yep.
And what happens in that is that you live subconsciously because they're automated. They just kick in when they need to.
Yep.
And what those mechanisms do, this is what I learned, is that they almost just set a framework for how our life works. Like even habits are formed out of those responses. So certain things just subconsciously happen, then we go, yeah, that's right, just habits. But if you consciously choose to see it differently, it happens on the front side of the prefrontal cortex, for anyone who cares about lingo. And it's this powerful frontal part of your brain that is able to take thoughts and cognitively turn them into behaviors that produce good life, to come up with ideas and turn them into habits, to come up with new thoughts, new ways, new strategies. All of that comes from cognitive, conscious thinking. And obviously, when you do that often enough, that kicks into your subconscious and it becomes a new framework for life. So you can, in the words of Caroline Leaf, train your brain.
Train your brain. That is brilliant. Tell us a little about that reptilian brain at the back there.
The little lizard brain.
The little lizard brain.
The good old lizard brain.
The good old lizard.
Well, lizards, if you think about a lizard, typically the ones you see at home, you get anywhere near the thing, it's gone. Exactly. It's either in your face or gone. So anyway, what happens with the lizard brain is it's a fight or flight. They call it the fight or flight brain. It's the most archaic part of our brain system. It hasn't necessarily evolved over time. Yep. It just is what it is, and it has a very simple function: to protect you.
So good.
So the way it protects you is when you're in any form of danger, and I got to say this now: any form of perceived danger. Humans are the only people on the planet, or living beings on the planet, that when danger is perceived, not actual, we still respond.
Wow.
Most things, like you know what it's like, you're in the Big 5 reserve, the lion is 5 meters away from you, and the ranger kind of says to you, no need to worry, it's not dangerous. But you're like, we're going to die.
It's a lion.
But for the animal, he's only going to do something when he knows he's in danger. So as long as you're not putting him in danger, not going to do anything typically, right?
Brilliant.
Humans are different. Humans like create danger in our minds, even if it's not there. And the lizard brain kicks in and 3 things happen. We fight, we flight, or we freeze. So either we just like throw everything we have at it and hope for the best, or we run for the hills, or we curl up in a ball and pretend it's not happening, which we see a lot of, right?
Yeah, so much.
And so anyway, that's the role of the lizard brain. It's automated, it's archaic, you don't want to live there, it's protective, it's not progressive. It does protect you. It's got its place, but it won't progress you. You need to consciously be choosing things that are going to make your life move forward. You can't be protective to everything. That's
amazing. I actually heard this week that a lot of trauma stays in our subconscious. So they flight or freeze. And it can only be dealt with if it's brought out of the subconscious and into the conscious brain.
How crazy is that?
And only then will we move through the trauma of a moment that happened over our lives.
So to use that example, when she asked me what happened between 1 and 7, what she was looking for was any trauma.
Yeah.
And there was one when I went to, I don't know if I nearly died, but I got really sick with encephalitis as a really young baby. And that would have been a trauma that I would never remember, right? But you pull it up and you go, what is it in me that wants to survive and fights against this idea of life being mundane? It might have something to do with that trauma.
Yep.
But until she asked that question, it was all just somewhere deep in my memory.
Brilliant.
And she asked it and it came forward, obviously through the photos. And now I can look at this thing and go, what did that teach me?
Yeah.
What is that trying to show me again? So it's very powerful.
That is brilliant.
Anyone can do that exercise, by the way.
Yeah.
You can ask yourself, between the ages of 1 and 7, were there any traumatic memories? And what does it look like to pull that memory forward and look at it from a distance? Almost visualize it being outside of you rather than playing with it in your mind. Like take that memory and put it in front of you and look at it with new eyes and say, what's this teaching me?
You have to go there, though.
You got to go there.
And that's just time, I suppose. Take moments to think through those years 1 to 7. Try to find out if there's any trauma that maybe happened in those years. Bring it into the conscious brain. Look at it. That's going to help you move forward.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Tell me about think, feel, and choose.
Well, I guess that's the conscious thing, So I don't know all the detail here. I think I would do her an injustice, Caroline Leaf, if I try to unpack it all.
You know a lot more detail than I do, and you're helping me right now. So
Caroline Leaf has this thing where she says basically the simplest way to rewire your brain, right? To go about rewiring your brain is a simple framework called think, feel, choose. And as you do this, you consciously rewire your brain. You consciously move forward in your ways. And what she's saying is you got to think about the things that you want. Like, so let's say we're in a situation. So now we're having a great conversation. I need to think about this moment. This is good for me. It helps me. It makes me feel alive. I like watching young men serve in this capacity. There's something about the environment. I'm thinking about what I'm going through, right? There's conscious thought to what we're going through.
Yep.
I'm not just like hoping the day ends.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Feel is like, it actually feels good.
Feels so good.
So like when we broke out in laughter at the beginning of this thing, and it happens a few times, I'm telling myself in that moment, this is Caroline Leaf's thing, don't just let the feelings happen. Tell yourself what you're feeling. So like when a kid's going through a beautiful moment and they're going, this is awesome, ask them, what are you feeling? And help them to say it. Because if you can actually put words to what you're feeling, it'll almost trigger your brain's response mechanisms, the conscious brain, to go, more of this, more of this. And of course, unhealthy habits, that's why you repeat them.
Yeah.
Because you've told yourself, these feel amazing, right? You can do it with healthy habits as well. And then the last one is choose. We should do this more, Dubsy.
Yes, we should.
And that's what it's all about. So think is, this is great for my own story. Feel is, I just feel alive in this conversation. And choose is, how about we do another 10 of these? And what happens in that is I build a framework for understanding conversations like this are helping people like you, and we should do more.
That is so good. We're just about to wrap up. And I just wanted to ask you, is there anything sort of stand out that maybe we've missed in this conversation that you feel anyone out there should be leaning into?
Oh, my word. Well, we started out with personal vision. And, I guess for me, the one thing I realize is that we live in a world where fear is real.
It is.
It's not something I want to throw out and say, shut the lizard brain down. Don't let it speak. The lizard brain triggers fear. It tells you that there are things out there that are unhelpful for us.
Yep.
But my encouragement to people is don't live paying too much attention to the fear. You got to get on the front foot.
Yep.
That's the easiest way to say it. You got to get on the front foot. Fear, if you read negative news, it triggers fear, right? Whether it's real or not, beside the point.
True story.
And here's what happens. When the lizard brain kicks in, it takes over.
Sure.
So my final thoughts to people would be to say, just a heads up. If fear seems to be controlling or ruling your life, it's not necessarily because every day you're choosing to be scared.
Yep.
It's just because subconsciously that brain's taking over. And it could be as simple as what you're feeding yourself by way of facts, by way of friendships, by way of financial things that you've been through, just things that you're feeding yourself daily, thinking about daily. And all it's doing is it's putting this automatic brain into play, and it's making you freak out.
Yep.
So simple turnaround. Think about good things daily.
Brilliant.
Read good news daily. And when you read it and it feels good, tell yourself, this feels good. And then choose to do it again. So honestly, I want to say like personal vision really does come down to feeding yourself with healthy stuff.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Pastor Dill. This has been such a good chat.
This has been awesome.
I believe that's helped so many of you out there. So from personal visions, write them down. Don't go more than 5 years. Use those 5 things that Pastor Dill spoke about earlier. Can you remind us of those?
personal life, work life, career, or work and career, finances, and then there's ministry, and then there's marriage or family.
So good. And if there is any way that you need to get hold of the different assessments or tests that we've done, archetypes to Enneagram to Strengthfinder, whatever those might look like, drop a comment in the box below. We'll make sure we get those to you. We can even maybe post them in the comment section on YouTube. And then obviously around the conscious and subconscious brain, make sure that you are living consciously, that you're bringing in all those healthy habits on a daily basis. And I believe that you are going to be living your best life as you build a vision for your life, break through some personal barriers.
Come on.
And live in a conscious headspace. Thanks so much. Catch you soon. Ciao, ciao.